Hi, my name is Joseph Hammond. I'm a professional illustrator, and in this video I'm going to be drawing a black and white portrait using pastel pencils. Okay, the first thing I do is I draw a line drawing on a separate piece of paper, and when that line drawing is finished, I transfer it over to my finished paper. Okay, and what I do is I establish where the top of the head is, and the top of the head is not where your hairline is, it's much farther back. And then I establish where the chin is. I divide that in half and I get where the eyebrows are. I go from the eyebrow to the chin, I divide that in half, and I get where the bottom of my nose is. I divide the bottom of the nose to the chin and I get the mouth opening. Okay, now I need to figure out where all my verticals are. Those are all horizontals. That's like the width of the eyes and the nose and the mouth. And I use calipers that I have. I find that to be more accurate than like my pencil or paintbrush. I mean, you can do it with a paintbrush or a pencil, but these calipers will tell me exactly how wide it is, and it just makes it a little bit more simple. Okay, now you see how I faceted the face here, and that tells me the planes. Okay, and these are just at this point they're all hard edged, and that tells me what's coming forward and what's going away from me. Now this is the finished drawing. Okay, I'm going to be transferring this line drawing over onto my finished paper. Okay, and that's it right there. This is, you can see those faint lines there. That's where I transferred it over. I used a carbon paper, and I transferred over, and I like to keep the image that light. Okay, because if I go over the whole thing with a pastel pencil and the dark lines, it creates hard edges, and hard edges are hard to get rid of. So I like to keep the hard edges hard and the soft edges softer, because remember, the hard edges are about 10% and the soft edges are more like 90. So what am I doing here? I'm drawing the eye. Okay, the eye is a round little sphere that is inside of my eye socket. Okay, now the eye opening is not just an oval shape, right? The eye opening, which is the eyelids wrap around that round ball. Okay, and as long as if you wrap it around that round ball, it will tell the viewers that that eyeball is round. And you want it to have a round eyeball if you want it to look realistic. Now, the eye itself there, see where I drew the highlight in the eye. Now, the light will hit the eye there, and it travels through and comes out the other side. It's translucent. In other words, you can see light through it. And if you don't have that, it's not going to look like a real eye. It's going to look like a flat object, maybe just like a little patch there. So make sure that you have that dark around the top, dark around the highlight, and then lighter on the opposite side of the highlight. Okay, what I'm drawing is the width, the thickness of the eyelid. Okay, all these things have thickness. So if you don't show that thickness, it's going to look like a flat object, and you don't want that. We're really striving for 3 dimensions, right? So I think of the eyelid there, and the thickness of the eyelid. Then the bag underneath your eye there, it goes back into space. It goes into her face, and then comes back out where the cheekbone is. Okay, do you see that? And then actually the bag is going around the eyeball itself again. Now, the paper I used here is Sennelier's pastel card. And the pencils I used was Carbo Othello black, Carbo Othello white, and General Pencil extra hard. And those are what I used here. Okay, one thing I wanted to mention to you is don't forget that to hit the subscribe button and the like button if you like the video. because that really helps me out. And if you like the video and you want to hear more of these videos, I'd appreciate it if you can do that for me, because that makes it so I can do these videos. Otherwise, I have to stop doing them. So anyhow, now form. See how on the eye there on the left, it goes into the fold that goes over the eye, then comes back out and around the eyebrow. See that? And to do that, I'm using form. Okay. What I'm trying to do is, you'll hear people, some say shading. Okay. Here we're going to call it either form or modeling. Okay. Modeling is the reason why they call it modeling, is like it's a sculpture. Okay, you want it to be like a sculpture. A sculpture is a three-dimensional object, and it goes in and out, and it protrudes out of the. You want it to protrude out of the painting. And remember on some of the other videos, I talk about the little ant that crawls across the person's face, right, going up the hills and down the hills. As you get closer to the light, things get lighter. As you go away from the light, they start to get darker. Okay, that's what you have to think about. That little ant that is crawling up and around and into valleys and up around, over to the top of her nose bridge, that kind of stuff. Okay, and if you can think like that, it'll make it so, it'll look like that. Okay, it always starts out on your head, and then you can transfer that onto the paper. Now, I wanted to also talk about, around this time of the painting, it always looks pretty bad, right? I'm at the point where a lot of times you think, oh my gosh, no matter what I do, it just seems like it still looks pretty ugly. But, don't give up, okay? Just keep on going. If you give up, you're not going to get anywhere, and you're not going to learn. But you just keep on going, and it usually will work out. And it's going to look ugly till it doesn't look ugly anymore. But right at this point, around here, it just doesn't look like it's going to work out, because the nose looks like it's almost really big, But once I get the other parts in, it seems to fit in a lot better. Because right now it looks like she's just got a really big nose, and but it works out okay. So, anyways, like I was saying, you establish your darks, and you establish your lights, and you establish your highlights. You block those things in, and then once you get that done, I go over the top of that with a paintbrush, usually a watercolor brush with soft bristles, and that softens the edges up. Because remember, I said most of the edges are going to be soft, right? So you want to soften everything up, and then you can actually harden it back up again, like what I'm doing right here. Then you go back in again with your darks, and then you pick out your hard edges again, and then I use that that extra hard general pencil, but use it only because it's very hard. It's scratchy, right? Use it only after you got that white pigment, like along her forehead and all that, or right now around her nose. You can use that general pencil, but don't use it when you got like raw paper here, because it'll scratch the little pieces off it, and you end up with a lot of little tiny white dots where it has scratched it, and you don't want that. So only use that once you're near the finish of that area. So what I did here was I decided to work the whole surface, okay, rather than from shape to shape. But also I wanted to go over the values. The reason why we're doing a value drawing, this is called a value drawing, and it's the values are probably your most important thing, in a drawing. You can have, the drawing could be a little bit screwy. Your color could be off, and you can still get away with it. But if your values are off, it's going to look really weird. Okay, so you need to understand value. That's probably the most important thing you're going to be doing. And so that's why I'm having you do this, because I think that it's like juggling, right? If you start out juggling with just 2 balls, it's pretty easy. You can learn how to juggle with 2 balls, no problem. Then you go up to 3 balls and it gets a lot harder. And then if you go to 4 balls, it's like virtually impossible, right? But if you work your way up to the 4 balls, it won't be that hard. And that's what you have to do here. You have to start out, you know, easy with just your black and your white, or you can do any color you want, as long as if it's one color and white. And then you work your way up. But this is the most important thing, is to learn your values. Okay, and values, if you don't know what that is, look it up on Google it up. It's a gray. Look up gray scales for artists, okay, or value scales for artists, and it's basically black and white with all your grays in between. Okay, and that's what a value is. When I say, your values need to be darker, or your values need to be lighter, uh, that's what I'm saying here. Is that it's a part of the grayscale. Okay, so anyways, I just wanted to show you it's a process that is extremely not boring, but it's hard to do. I mean, you have to be patient. You cannot be impatient with this. You have to go in slowly. You have to build up your values versus, I mean, it would be nice if you could just go in black, white, but you end up with, it wouldn't look like what you really want it to look like. You have to build it up slowly. See how I built up that dark along her cheek there? Okay, that area there is very important, by the way. That line of darkness that you can see that's coming over toward her mouth, that line pulls her face forward. Okay, that's what makes her face look like it's coming out rather than just laying flat. It's the same thing with the line on underneath her nose there. That little valley that goes from your nose to your lips. If you don't get the angle right, it will look either too flat or too protruding. If you have a shallow angle, it'll look like she's got like buck teeth, right? And if you have the angle too vertical, it'll look like she's flat because she's not. You've got teeth in there, and teeth are like horseshoe shaped, right? So that's what your mouth has to look like. It's not flat like where your eyes are or the bottom of your nose. It's rounded like a horseshoe. So you have to have that horseshoe protruding like the mouth, okay? The opening of the mouth is not a flat line. You can make mistakes of doing that, of making a flat line where the mouth is. It goes around the teeth. It goes around that form, okay? You don't want it to be flat. So anyways, that's what I'm doing here is I'm lightening certain areas up, and I'm doing it gradually. As a matter of fact, I think I'm using now I'm using the black, but remember that extra hard general pencil. Okay, like this is the time to use it, where I've got everything covered with the white, and not before, because it's too scratchy. When you're starting out on plain paper, on empty surface, use only your pastel colors. So anyhow, I want to also talk about drawing. When you finish your drawing that you transferred over here, that doesn't mean you're finished drawing. Okay, you're constantly drawing, whether you're painting with a paintbrush or you're working with pencil here. You're constantly drawing. You're looking at the piece and you're saying, okay, this edge needs to come out farther. That edge is too long. And even if you've transferred it over, it gets kind of mushy, like the drawing gets kind of moved around a little bit, and you have to constantly adjust. So you're constantly drawing over and over. Also, how do you see values, right? I mean, if you looked at the reference material, you'd see a whole bunch of different values. And the way you see the values is you squint your eyes. Okay, squinting your eyes causes the values to, you won't have as much definition, and you'll be able to see the larger shape. Now, your shadows always have to gradate. Okay, if the shadow doesn't gradate, it becomes like a patch, and you don't want to have a patch on the side of her face. You want it to look like it's gradating, going over the form, but you don't want to have a whole lot of different values within the shadow shape. You want to keep it simplified, and the way you simplify, like I said, was to squint your eyes. Now, how do you find that your drawing is not right or your values are not right? The way you find that out is by using a handheld mirror. Okay, that's probably your most important tool. You can have the best paintbrush in the world or best pencils in the world. It's not that important. The important thing is to use a tool like the handheld mirror, or even just getting out of your chair and standing 10 feet back and looking at it. Probably should do that about every 15 minutes. I get carried away, I get going, and I'm going, and I'm drawn away and drawn away and drawn away. Man, I was sitting there for an hour doing this, and I get up and look, and it's like, oh man, I made a big mistake back there, and then I have to go back in and correct it, right? But if you get up about every 15 minutes, and it's good to take a break anyways, you get up about every 15 minutes, stand about 10 feet back, and look at it. Get your mirror out, turn it around. The reason why the mirror makes you see these things is it reverses the image. And I'm not really sure why reversing the image causes you to be able to see errors. But I'll tell you a little story. When I was graduating from school, we had to get business cards. And I got the business cards made, and they came back reversed. The image was reversed. They shot it backwards, and it looked really strange to me. I thought, my gosh, the drawing looked correct before. Why does it look bad? But it's because the image had been reversed, and I realized it then. And then I find out that a lot of artists already knew that if you reverse the image, you could see errors. But I was never told that in school. But anyhow, check it out. That's probably the most important thing that I've said in this whole video. But anyhow, remember the last shot? Her chin was a little bit too long and too rounded, and so I pushed it back in and shrank the chin. But now I think I went a little bit too far. So that's what I was telling you about. Remember, you go back and forth. So I will turn around and redraw that jawline, so the jawline becomes a little bit bigger, and it doesn't look quite so flat here, because that's not the image that I'm trying to create. But talking about images, if you remember the reference material I had back there, she looks kind of, like she doesn't really care. And as an illustrator, the story that you tell is the most important thing. Okay, so you have to tell a story. And the story was that, like a young girl here, she's saying goodbye to her lover at the train station. He's probably going to go off to the Western Front or something, and, probably never see him again. So, you want her to look sympathetic. You want her to look like she's going to miss you, rather than with the other reference material. It looked more like, she's just telling me to get away, get away, creep, you're bothering me. But that's not what you want to say, right? So you have to change it. What I'm trying to say is, don't be a slave to your reference material. In the old days, we used to call it scrap, okay? And everybody would say, hey, Don't be a slave to your scraps, the teachers would. And that means, you don't have to draw it exactly the way the reference material said. You're the boss. You're going to make it look the way you want it to look. Reference material is a departure point. You start out with the reference material. It tells you where your eyes are, nose are, mouth is, shape of the head. And then from there you depart and make it your own. You make her look happy or make her look sad or whatever you want it to. Create a story through emotion. Okay, so now this part here, I wanted to show you that I was starting to get a little impatient. I'm getting near the end here and I wanted to get going, right? So I started to draw in those lines on the back there too hard, too fast, and I wanted to show you what happens when you do that. Well, you get these bunch of dark scratchy lines like you see there, and it becomes difficult to get rid of. So you want to build up this darkness, even though it may take time and it becomes tedious. You want to do it, okay? And this, I'm softening this up. I'm trying to soften this up, and it's softened up some, but it's not softening up that great. So, I had to work probably extra long just to get it to smooth out. And so, what I was trying to say here was that by being patient and doing it the way I should have done it, it would have actually saved me time. And so, this is what I'm doing here is I'm adding the skin in. Okay, before I just laid down my dark and my lights and my highlight there. That's the reason why I want to have a highlight there is I want to make sure that the shoulder pulls forward. Okay, right now the shoulder is closer to me than the face, but I still cannot make that shoulder, the highlight, lighter than the rest of it because because I don't want the shoulder to be my focal point. Remember, that's what you have to establish at the very beginning is what is your focal point? Not the shoulder, but the face. Okay, so you want to have all your lightest lights and the darkest darks on the face. Okay, so I'm going to have to mute that down. So by muting it down, I mean get the colors closer together. And so this is the finished piece here. I think the values are good. It kind of has a a moody feeling. I think that the story is being told. I think she looks more sympathetic to me, and she's a little bit sad looking, right? So anyhow, all the values I think are in the correct areas. The main focus of the painting is the face here. Now, I wanted to show you that your edges, like the back of her hair, is soft and kind of a little hazy, and that pushes it back in space. Okay. Now, the harder edges, like on the front of the hair, that pulls it forward. Okay. That tells me that her front of her face is coming forward. The back of her head is going back. Okay. So, if you like this video, and learn something from it, I'd appreciate it if you can hit the subscribe button and the like, and I'll see you in the next video.